Let me start with some numbers. In 1987, when Forbes first started ranking billionaires, they found fewer than 30 across the entire developing world. 3 decades later, that number had grown to over 600. Trade opened up, supply chains went global, millions of people were lifted out of poverty. That part is real, but the biggest gains went straight to the top. Oxfam put out a report in 2025 called Takers Not Makers, and the findings are pretty stark. Billionaire wealth grew 3 times faster in 2024 than it did the year before. They estimate we'll see 5 trillionaires within a decade. Meanwhile, the number of people living in poverty has barely changed since 1990. 60% of billionaire wealth comes from inheritance, cronyism, and corruption or monopoly power. The global system is still extracting wealth from the global south to the super rich in the global north at a rate of $30 million an hour. Then in 2026, Oxfam followed up with another report, Resisting the Rule of the Rich. The number of billionaires has now passed 3,000 for the first time. More billionaire wealth than at any point in history. That kind of money buys politicians, it buys newspapers, it buys social media platforms, it buys armies of lawyers to make sure you never face consequences. Country after country, the pattern is the same. The super rich accumulate more money than they could ever spend, then they spend it on political power, shaping the rules that define economies and govern nations. At the same time, protests are being suppressed and dissent is being silenced all over the world. So how directly are these people involved in politics? Well, last year, 33 oligarchs either served as heads of state or sat in government. 82% of them are from the global south. 6 of the world's top 20 economies are run by oligarchs. Over 11% of the world's billionaires had held or sought political office as of 2023. Oxfam estimates that billionaires are 4,000 times more likely to hold political office than ordinary people. The transnational influence of the American oligarchy specifically has been enormous. Their impact on the US government apparatus has held multiple states hostage in trade negotiations, even as its most vocal member, Elon Musk, threatened to start his own political party. If you are enjoying the video so far, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I also have a Patreon and channel membership if you want to support me. This is the second part of a 2-part documentary on oligarchs. You can check out the first part by clicking the link in the top right corner. Now let's get back to the video. China is a little bit different. In Russia, the oligarchs captured the state during the chaos of the 1990s. In the US, the super rich increasingly dominated a democratic system from the outside in. China is neither of those. In China, the party state tolerates billionaires, it even creates them, but it keeps the power to destroy them. Their fortune is built on a thin foundation, the goodwill of the Chinese Communist Party. China has one of the largest concentrations of billionaires in the world. Over 1,000 were identified in 2025, with combined wealth reaching $4.2 trillion. But the CCP has never been comfortable with that kind of private wealth. They go after people regularly. The most well-known example is Jack Ma, co-founder of Alibaba. Alibaba was hit with a record $2.8 billion fine for monopolistic practices. It didn't stop with Ma. From late 2020 to 2023, Beijing launched an unprecedented campaign against its entire tech sector. Tencent, Meituan, Didi, ByteDance, all of them were hit with fines, forced restructurings, new regulations covering antitrust, data security, you name it. At its worst, the crackdown erased $1.5 trillion from Chinese tech stocks. Several of China's most prominent tech founders quietly stepped back from their boardroom positions, reading the political winds. The message was clear. In China, the market exists to serve the state, not the other way around. It's a sharp contrast with what's happening in the West. While Elon Musk stood behind the American president at his inauguration, Jack Ma was sitting at the far end of the table at a meeting with Xi Jinping, there to show the party's priorities, not his own. The richest 1% now owns 45% of all wealth on the planet. In 2023, for the first time, more new billionaires got rich through inheritance than through entrepreneurship. Every single one of the world's billionaires under 30 inherited their wealth. Over the next 3 decades, more than 1,000 of today's billionaires will transfer over $5.2 trillion to their heirs. About 36% of billionaire wealth already comes from inheritance, and the transfers go largely untaxed. 2/3 of countries don't tax inheritance to direct descendants at all. We're watching the creation of a new aristocracy. Extreme wealth being passed down across generations, compounding over time with almost nothing gained back. A lot of this wealth isn't about talent or innovation. It's about who you are, who you know, who you lobby, whose campaign you finance, which person you bribe. There are more billionaires in the more corrupt and captured part of the global economy. That's not a coincidence. As wealth concentrates, political power concentrates with it. Policy outcomes end up reflecting the preferences of upper-income groups more than those of everyone else. The super rich have built their political power in 3 main ways: by buying politics directly, by investing in IDs that legitimize elite power, and by directly accessing the institutions that make decisions. Billionaires have long used their wealth to buy politicians and political parties, turning democracy into a system of $1, 1 vote. There's a concept from the political scientist Jeffrey Winters called the wealth defense industry. Even very wealthy people can't personally set up shell companies or move money to tax havens on their own. They need an entire industry of lawyers and accountants to do it for them. The result is that the top 1/10 of the 1% end up owing fewer taxes than even their secretaries. This industry is discreet. The offshore world offers secrecy. Some oligarchs actually pay professionals to keep them off the Forbes richest list. They don't want the attention. Still, oligarchs also have an interest in shaping what the public thinks. Legacy media can be bought for cheap, social media costs more, but the reach is far bigger. Rising inequality has increased both the number of oligarchs and their average wealth, giving them the ability to acquire different types of power. Uncertainty, economic and political, creates opportunities that the ultra-rich are perfectly positioned to exploit. The decline of formal institutions like the rule of law has given oligarchs fewer guardrails and more room to accumulate wealth. Russia in the 1990s is the textbook example. I've made a number of videos about this period that you can check out on the channel. The instability and declining rule of law created the conditions for Vladimir Putin to emerge, first accumulating wealth, then power, positioning himself as the man who could provide stability. The world that oligarchs are building is becoming more authoritarian. According to one analysis, 47% of oligarchs ruling as heads of state or government in 2025 are located in countries categorized as not free by Freedom House. This emerging order is also forcing countries to choose between competing spheres of influence, which is making the world significantly more unstable than it already is. Some oligarchs run entire states. but they run them differently than states have ever been run before. Many exercise their power in non-state ways, controlling media, making financial contributions, dominating key technologies. They focus on increasing and exploiting inequality, uncertainty, and institutional decay. The consequences for stability or predictability don't enter the equation. So where does all of this leave the rest of us? It looks bleak, but there have been some attempts to push back. In 2021, over 140 countries agreed through the OECD to implement a global minimum corporate tax of 15%, known as Pillar 2. The idea was to stop multinational corporations from stashing profits in tax havens. The OECD estimated it would cut profit shifting roughly in half and raise between $155 and $192 billion in additional tax revenue per year globally. By 2025, more than 55 countries have passed domestic legislation to implement it. Then, on his first day back in office, Donald Trump signed an executive order declaring that the global tax deal had no force or effect in the United States. The US then negotiated a deal that effectively exempts American headquartered multinationals from the entire framework. The Treasury Secretary called it a historic victory for US tax sovereignty. The European Union has gone further than anyone else in trying to regulate big tech directly. In 2024, the EU's Digital Markets Act and Digital Services Act became fully enforceable, targeting the largest platforms as gatekeepers. In 2025, the EU imposed its first fines under the DMA, 500 million euros against Apple and 200 million euros against Meta for anti-competitive practices. Google was fined 2.95 billion euros for abusing its dominance in digital advertising. Elon Musk's X was fined 120 million euros under the DSA for transparency failures. Musk responded by calling for the EU to be abolished. In total, the EU hit big tech with at least 3.77 billion euros in fines for 2025 alone. But the truth is, for a company like Apple or Google, these fines are easily manageable. They may not be enough to fundamentally change how these companies operate. The problem is one of asymmetry. These companies have armies of lawyers, accountants, and lobbyists. Regulatory agencies are often underfunded, politically vulnerable, and operating across borders while the corporations operate above them. The revolving door between government and industry means that the people writing the laws are often the same people who will later profit from bending them. These oligarchs have the resources to wait out political cycles. They know that a single election, one they can influence, can reverse years of regulatory progress. Still, resistance isn't pointless. The EU's regulatory framework is being adopted as a model by countries around the world. The global minimum tax still applies in over 55 jurisdictions and continues to evolve. The fight is difficult and it's not a fair one, but the longer extreme wealth goes unchecked, the harder it becomes to challenge. But people are trying. Thanks for watching the second part of this documentary about oligarchs. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. If you want to support me even more, you can subscribe to my Patreon or YouTube membership. I truly appreciate it. If you didn't see the first part, you can check it out by clicking here. I truly appreciate the support, and I will see you in the next video.